Have you ever finished a project and felt like it never became what you hoped it would? Not because people don't care, not because they didn't work hard, but because somehow it never became what everyone believed it could be. By the end of this video, I think you will understand why that happens. For years, I couldn't explain it either. I just knew I'd worked on projects that never quite felt right, and others where everything seemed to fall into place. I thought this was just part of creative work. Some projects simply clicked, others didn't. Sometimes there was an obvious reason, sometimes there wasn't, and that always fascinated me, because two projects could have talented people, good intentions, similar budgets, and just as much effort. Yet one would naturally find its direction, while the other always felt like it was searching for something. I just didn't know what that something was. One project has stayed with me for years. At the time, I'd already spent 10 years in public television, working closely with production and live broadcast teams. When I joined the company, I became responsible for everything related to audiovisual. So when the company decided to launch a podcast, I assumed I'd be part of shaping it from the beginning. But I wasn't. The conversations had already happened, the direction had already been decided. By the time the project reached me, I had 1 week to put everything into practice. I remember looking at the plan and thinking, something isn't right. It wasn't just the deadline, it wasn't just equipment, it wasn't just the logistics. With everything I learned over the previous 10 years, I genuinely couldn't understand how we were supposed to make that vision work. I remember asking the person leading the project, how are you planning to do this? Not because I wanted to challenge them, I genuinely wanted to understand. But every time I raised a concern, I kept coming back to the same answer. We have invested in all this equipment, so we have to make it work. So we did. Before the first recording, I adjusted what I could, we adapted, we found solutions, and we started recording. The podcast wasn't bad. It was fine. But after every episode, I walked away with exactly the same feeling. It wasn't right. We kept improving things, but that feeling never disappeared. And by the end of the season, the company realized exactly what I'd been feeling from the beginning. It wasn't the kind of podcast they actually needed. Looking back, there were plenty of reasons why that project struggled. The deadline, the equipment, the planning, the fact that I hadn't been involved from the beginning, all of those things mattered, but none of them completely explained that feeling. Something still wasn't right. Then there were projects that felt completely different. I was hired to film a paddle tournament. Before we talked about cameras, editing, or deliverables, I wanted to understand one thing. What would make this event a success? As we talked, I realized they weren't really looking for someone to film people playing paddle. They wanted people to remember the day. They want people talking about it afterwards. They wanted the relationships between the players to become part of the story. That's why one of the ideas was to interview each doubles partner separately, asking questions like, golden point, we serving? Suddenly, every creative decision had a reason. The interviews, the photography, the reels, the highlight film, none of those ideas came first. They followed naturally as we understood what success actually looked like. In one project, every creative decision felt like we were trying to fix something. In the other, every creative decision had a reason to exist. And somewhere along the way, I realized something I've carried into every project since. Every project has the truth before it has a voice. Until you understand what a project is really trying to become, every creative decision feels like you are making your best guess. Once you understand it, those same decisions start to feel obvious. That's why today I don't begin with cameras or editing or storytelling. I begin by listening. Before I ask, what should we create? I ask, what is this project really trying to become? Because if you have ever worked on a project that never became what you hoped it would, maybe that first question matters more than any creative decision that comes after it. That's exactly why we've built our process at Digivate around understanding before creating. If you are curious about how that works, you will find a link in the description that explains our approach, and if it feels like the right fit for what you are building, fill in the short form at the bottom and tell us a little about your project. We'd love to hear your story. Of course, discovering what a project is trying to say is only the beginning. The other videos in this series explore the principles that have shaped the way I think about storytelling, editing and directing over the years. Wherever you decide to go next, I hope these ideas help you approach your next project a little differently.